Okay, guys, so we totally filmed this once before, but my dumbass didn't click record. So we're gonna go round 2 on this. But anyways, guys, I'm Tabitha Faye, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. And today I have the lovely Kat, or the Queen of B movies, and we're coming to you today to give you some Halloween movie recommendations. So basically, what's gonna happen is we're gonna go back and forth and give you some suggestions. We each have 5 different movies that we're going to recommend to you. So I'm going to go ahead and give it, what's the phrase? Give it over to Kat? Send it over to Kat?
Send it over to me.
You know what I mean. All right.
Yes, guys, as Tabitha mentioned, we totally forgot to hit record, but no worries. It happens. When you're a YouTuber, it happens. But I'm still pretty hyped. I'm still excited to do this. So let's get right into it. My first movie that I picked is my number 1. And no, it is not the OG Halloween. That's the thing about my list, is I wanted to pick movies that are more obscure, that people have not really heard of or seen. You know, people who want something different besides Halloween or Hocus Pocus or Nightmare Before Christmas. So first movie on my list is Trick or Treat from 1986. Not Trick or Treat, you know, the one with Sam that everybody knows from 2007, but Trick or Treat from 1986, starring Mark Price. And if you were a baby of the 80s and you watched the Michael J. Fox show Family Ties, he was Skippy on Family Ties, you know, the nerdy friend. But this movie is like the complete opposite of that. So that if you remember that show, or if you were a huge fan of that show, this might be an interesting watch for you. But it also has cameos by Gene Simmons from Kiss and Ozzy Osbourne, as we know him, the Prince of Darkness. This is a heavy metal horror movie, by the way, so that's why there's, you know, they have like these little cameos in the movie. And it also stars an actor by the name of Tony Fields, who plays the ghostly rock star Sammy Kerr. And fun fact, Tony Fields was a backup dancer for Michael Jackson in the 80s. So when you watch the performances in this movie, you could totally tell, oh yeah, I could see this being in Thriller and everything. Yeah, interesting cast and great soundtrack by band Fastway, who sing the Sammy Kerr song. And this movie is about Mark Price's character Eddie, who is a teenage metalhead, and he idolizes Sammy Kerr. He's like his idol, favorite rock star. But one day Sammy Kerr dies mysteriously in a hotel fire, and of course Eddie is like the end of the world for him. But then he goes to his local radio station where the DJ, played by Gene Simmons, gives him the last recording that Sammy Kerr ever did. But it turns out that Sammy Kerr's spirit haunts the record, and it starts speaking to Eddie when he plays it on the turntable, and it starts telling him to get back at the bullies who wronged him.
Yeah, so I watched this movie last night after Kat recommended it to me, and it is a really fun watch. So my husband hates scary movies. He hates anything scary. He hates any horror or anything like that. But he loves hair metal. So when I told him, I'm like, I don't think that this movie is going to be too scary, and it's about hair metal. He's like, okay, I'll watch it with you. And he actually really enjoyed this movie. And I'm going to tell you something. It's really hard for me and him to find something to watch because I love horror and he doesn't. So especially around Halloween time, I want to watch some kind of Halloween movie, but it's so hard to get him to want to watch that stuff. But he really enjoyed this. And I'm really glad that he actually watched this with me because I'm not into heavy metal or hair metal. Like, I know nothing about it. And honestly, the Sammy Kerr.
Sammy Kerr.
I thought that was Gene Simmons. And my husband was like, that's absolutely not Gene Simmons. And I'm like, oh. And then I also thought that Sammy Kerr was an actual like hair metal person. And so I asked my husband, I'm like, oh, well, what does Sammy Kerr sing? And he's like, what? I think this is why he actually started watching the movie with me, because I was asking him these questions. Like, I was listening to it on my iPad and he was on his phone and I was like, hey, what does Sammy Kerr sing? And he's like, I have no idea who Sammy Kerr is. I'm like, he's some hair metal person. He's like, that does not sound like a hair metal person. I'm like, no, I'm watching a movie about him. And I was just like, what are you talking about? So I finally put it on and he's like, that's a fictional character. He's like, that is not a real person. But like she was saying, like, apparently that person was a backup dancer for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
He definitely knows how to perform. And that's why I totally thought that he was an actual, you know, rock star, because his facial expressions were on point. His dance moves were on point. And I was like, oh, he's got to be famous, but apparently not.
But wouldn't it be cool if he was real?
It would be. He was very good. He was entertaining me. So
yeah. Like, it would be cool if he was a real person, but the actor is a real person. But unfortunately, I will never get to meet Sammy Kerr himself because I believe it was in 1995. Tony Fields actually passed away. I think it was from AIDS, I believe.
Oh, really?
So I will never get to meet Sammy Kerr himself, unfortunately. But I have met Mark Price, and he is like the nice guy in horror you will ever meet.
Really?
Like, I don't think he really does conventions a lot. So when I saw he was going to do one here, I was like, I have to meet him because he was also like one of my biggest horror crushes when I first saw this movie. And it's funny because like this movie means a lot to me and my boyfriend because whenever we first started dating, this was like one of the first movies we watched together. And he loves horror too. We watched Trick or Treat together and he really liked it. And now I joke with him like, I always knew I had a thing for Mark Price because y'all look alike, except he's heavy metal and you're a grunge kid in the 90s, but they look kind of alike, you know, like with the big eyes and the cherub face, the curly hair. So it's like, I always knew I had a thing for Eddie Weinbauer because now he's my boyfriend.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's definitely a cutie. Like, if you guys like those 80s movies with, like, the bad boy character, I mean, this is that typical 80s movie with the bad boy, and then, you know, you got the prissy girl, the goody-goody girl who bad boy kind of thing going on. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. And so, if you guys have like, a spouse or a friend who does not like jump scary movies, this may be a recommendation for you because it wasn't like, oh my God, so scary, like, I'm going to have nightmares or anything. It was definitely...
It's super cheesy and fun.
Exactly. It's a fun movie, and if you like hair metal, you're probably gonna like this movie. My husband really enjoyed it, and he hates Halloween movies, so thumbs up to that movie.
And that's the funny thing too, is like I'm more of a punker. I'm more of a casual listener when it comes to like heavy metal and stuff, but I know a lot of people are like really into metal. Like I have a lot of friends that are into metal, so of course I recommend this movie to them, especially because if they love horror too. But that's the funny part, is like I'm not really into metal, yet my favorite genre besides slashers is heavy metal horror. I don't know, I guess just because like I love how fun they are and how cheesy they are and stuff.
Yeah. See, I don't really like hair metal, but I really enjoyed this movie. Like, I don't know, it was fun to me. I love 80s movies, like the 80s romance, like cheesy movie vibes. I love that. So this was a great movie for me. So whether you like hair metal or don't, you should still watch this movie. It was just entertaining and fun. So the movie that I'm gonna recommend is, I'm gonna go ahead and go on that route that if you are watching with someone who's not a big horror person, doesn't like bloody gut, jump scares, all that, I'm going to recommend Identity. Now, Identity was made in 2003, and it's supposed to be like adaptation of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. This is more of like a psychological thriller. Basically, it's about these people who end up at this motel because there's this big flood and it floods all these roads and they can't get through. So they eventually end up at this like creepy motel in the middle of nowhere. And as these guests are there, each one of them are getting killed off one by one. And so throughout the movie, you're trying to figure out who the killer is. So if you're into like murder mysteries or you like Agatha Christie, this movie you may want to check out. It's really good. I saw it when it first came out and I was like, whoa, was not expecting that ending. It was great. And again, if you like psychological thrillers, this may be a movie for you. And I don't think that you've seen this movie at all, right? You've never seen Identity?
No, I haven't. And I hadn't even heard of it like until I saw you like raving about it a lot on your channel. But I do love a good, like, whether it be horror or like thriller or mystery or whatever, I do like a movie with like a good twist. Maybe, you know, that'll be on my radar to watch one day.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you haven't seen this movie before or you haven't heard about this movie, I don't think you're going to guess the ending unless you're like super, super smart, because I totally didn't. I was like, whoa, mind blown, especially when I first saw this. And a plus side, John Cusack is in this movie, and I have a big crush on John Cusack, so it could be why this movie is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. But yeah, Kate, what else you got for us? You got another movie for us?
Did you just call me Kate?
Did I say Kate? I thought I said Cat. I meant Cat.
We're really losing it here. No.
I'm telling you, we spent an hour recording the last movie, and it was fantastic. And you guys will never be able to see the other recording because
we're trying to recreate it our best.
I know. I just got so excited, and so I just jumped into it.
I know.
The record button. Yeah.
Gotta keep going. Gotta keep going for the channel.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so my second recommendation, by the way, my first 3 recommendations will all be heavy metal horror from the 80s. Sorry if you're not into that, but don't worry, there will probably be something for you at the end. But my second recommendation is Rocktober Blood from 1984, and this one is about a rock star named Billy I who goes crazy one night and murders all his bandmates, and he's arrested and gets executed for the murder. But was it really Billy who killed everybody that night? So by that description, if you can't guess, this movie kind of goes in the route of like what Tabitha was describing with Identity. It's kind of a murder mystery, I guess, in a way. You know, it has a twist at the end, but I will be honest, the twist at the end of this movie is very cliche and very cheesy and kind of underwhelming because it just kind of bad out at you like, oh yeah, this is the real reason like why this all happened. And you're like even I can admit when I first saw this movie and that happened, I was like, really? Like that's it?
Yeah. Again, I watched this because Kat recommended it, and at the end I was like, wait, did I miss something? Did I get the ending right? So I had to like rewind. I'm like, oh, I guess that's the ending. But again, if you like those cheesy movies, then you're gonna love this movie. It's all like, you know, the cheesy 80s.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah.
Way more of in the style of a B movie than Trick or Treat. This movie is just so wonderfully cheesy, bad, and you know, like especially with like the whole metal elements in it, and it's got some pretty violent kills as well. And the soundtrack is really awesome. I actually have it on vinyl over here, and it was all done by a band by the name of Sorcery. So if anybody's into metal or anything, were you a huge Sorcery fan? I don't even know if they're still a band anymore, but they did the soundtrack, and it's really great. And there's actually a very interesting controversial story behind Rocktober Blood. There's actually a very interesting 2-parter video here on YouTube that if anybody wants to check that out, or if you want to check that out yourself, I'll send it to you if you want. Basically what happened was that the directors of Rocktober Blood, they're a husband and wife team, and they actually directed a few more horror movies. Like they're weird people now from what I've seen. Like they're like born again Christians, so they want nothing to do with the movie anymore. And the main actor who played Billy in the movie is actually their son. I think his name's like Trey or Troy Lauren or something like that. In recent years he came out and said that, because I have the rights to this movie, I can release it on Blu-ray for the first time. And he was like, I'm gonna like add all these special features and like, you know, make it look so badass, and it's gonna be like a 4K scan. So everybody was excited about it. And then from what I've seen, what people received in the mail, by the way, they paid like $50 for this. What they received in the mail was utter garbage. I mean, it looked like a freaking bootleg. And basically the guy like most of the money for himself and like spent it on himself. So that's pretty like sleazy. Like it sucks too because I'm like, I would love to meet Billy I himself, but you know, like just hearing that kind of makes me lose respect for the guy. So it's like that may not happen, but still love the movie regardless. I mean, bad thing that he did, but still love the movie.
You don't have to get this movie on your Blu-ray copy. You can watch it on YouTube. That's you were saying most of your movies you can watch on YouTube, right? Or at least like 3 of them.
Yeah, like the first 3 you can watch on YouTube, and they're not in shitty quality either, which is a good thing. They're in pretty decent quality, especially the next movie that I'm going to be talking about. But I'm going to throw it back to you for your next recommendation.
So, since there is a pandemic going on, I thought it would only be necessary to recommend some kind of apocalyptic movie to you guys. So, I was thinking about The Crazies because it centers around a virus. But as I got to thinking, I settled on The Mist. Now, if you haven't heard of The Mist, this movie was made in 2007, and it's based on a 1980 short story by Stephen King. I read the short story, wasn't a big fan. This is the one instance where I believe the movie is actually better than the book. But what makes The Mist so scary is that it's not actual, it's not a virus, but it's not the actual act that's really scary, but how the people react to the act that's really scary. So basically what happens in The Mist is that all these people are trapped inside a grocery store and the mist comes. It's like this fog that just consumes the city. And if people leave the grocery store, they get killed in like a very gruesome way. But that's not what's really scary about this movie. What's really scary is how people react to this fog. And I thought that was really scary, especially like everything that's going on with the pandemic and everything. If things get worse, like how are people going to respond? That is the most terrifying aspect of what are you willing to do to your fellow man in order to survive? And it gets really crazy. And that is the most terrifying thing to think of. So that's why I am going to recommend The Mist. And you've seen The Mist, right?
Yeah, I remember like seeing it when it first came out in theaters. I hadn't seen it since, but now that I watch it now, I still love it just as much because it is a really good movie. I haven't read the short story by Stephen King, though I would love to. It's a really good movie. It's probably actually like I would consider it a very underrated Stephen King movie because it's crazy too because like how you're talking about like, like how they're trapped in the grocery store and like there's this outbreak of like this thing that's killing everybody outside and they cannot go outside or else they'll die and they're trapped in a grocery store. And I feel like this movie almost predicted like what is happening now because like especially when the pandemic first started and you saw like people like almost like attacking each other over like food and like toilet paper and everything. It's crazy. Like that's what we're going through now. I mean, not like knock on wood, that's not a big giant alien thing isn't gonna come for us next.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the people in that movie are crazy, especially like that crazy ass religious lady.
Yes.
I don't know what it is about Stephen King with like religious people, like crazy religious people. It almost seems like there's one in every one of his stories, but yeah, like the crazy ass religious lady, like whenever it's like it's coming to a head and everybody starts turning on each other and she's like, we must sacrifice the child. I was like, oh hell no. I was like, man, thank God for that guy that just fucking shot her in the head.
Yes, I literally was yelling at the screen. I remember I watched this when it first came out, but I got it on like when it came out on DVD. And this was one movie I was literally yelling at the screen like, shut up, that lady needs to shut up. But it's so scary because, today people, like, especially when the virus first happened, people were afraid to leave their house. Like, they were stuck in their house. They didn't know what to do. And it's like, could you imagine how people would be if, like, you just walked out your door and you instantly died? Like, how freaked out people would be and how crazy people would get. Like, if this virus were to, like, mutate it, not, like you said, knock on wood, mutate, become even crazier, like the freaking virus and the crazies, or 28 days later or something like that, how people would react to that. And that's the scary thing about these movies. It's not necessarily the virus or the thing that's, the outbreak that happens. It's
like what human nature does to us.
Exactly. Human nature is the scariest thing. And so for Halloween, if you want to get scared, The Mist is terrifying, especially when you look at things happening today. Highly recommend.
The ending will mess you up.
Yes, it does. It really does. And this is the one Stephen King story that the ending is actually brilliant. It could be because it's the movie, because like I said, The Mist ending, the movie ending is way better. But it's the one Stephen King ending where you're like, wow, brilliant. Because, usually with Stephen King, he has a fantastic storyline. You get so hooked to his, like, storyline. And then the ending, you're like, did you run out of creativity? Did you get tired? Did you run out of coffee? Like, what happened there? But this one was actually really good, so I highly recommend.
Me too. Like I said, very underrated Stephen King movie.
Yes, it is. All right, what else you got for us?
Okay, I'm sorry if anybody's getting tired of the whole heavy metal theme here, but don't worry, the last one. But my third recommendation is a movie called Hakko Lantern from 1988. And this one is about a young man named Tommy who has to reach manhood, according to his devil-worshipping grandfather, by committing a satanic ritualistic murder on Halloween night. Now, this one, I would definitely say it's a lot more gorier than Trick or Treat or Rocktober Blood. Not many musical numbers in this one. There's like one that's really awesome. And, and Tabitha knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's so like, to me, like, that sequence is kind of like out of place, but God, is it so awesome. And the song gets stuck in your head. I actually want the album with that song on it. I've actually been looking up like what's a good price for one.
Right?
I would definitely say this one is just as cheesy. It's a B movie. And Massacre Video also did a fantastic release of this movie. So if anybody wants a good Blu-ray of it, get the Massacre Video release. For all you Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans, the main actor, I forgot his name, but the main actor in this movie actually played Mac's dad in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've never seen an episode of that show, but I've heard of it because my boyfriend and his brother are really big fans, so they watch it all the time. And so now it's like this joke, like, this movie is like the prequel to that. Mac's dad used to be in a satanic cult before that show.
Yeah, I've never seen Always Sunny either, but what I really liked about this movie, all you have to say is a satanic grandpa, and I'm sold.
Hashtag satanic grandpas.
Exactly. I mean, what other movie has a satanic grandpa.
Not many.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't think of one that has a satanic grandpa. So yeah, hashtag satanic grandpa. I mean, that's all you really, really need to know. There is a pretty brutal scene. Like even within the first 10 minutes, there's a scene that happens, and you know what I'm talking about. That.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're starting off like that. Like, all right, let's go. And like, you caught my eye. Now I'm gonna keep watching. And then the ending actually shocked me too. Which
yeah.
Oh, okay. And I think this one probably has like the best ending out of the other two that you recommended. That I was like,
you think so?
I think so, because I was pretty shocked. Like you said, with Rocktober, like the ending was like, really, that was the ending kind of thing. But again, the cheesiness is what gets you. Okay, the thing about Trick or Treat, I forgot to ask you about this, but do you think that he was arrested at the end? Because all I kept thinking in Trick or Treat is, this dude's going to jail after all this is over, after everything that happened. He's gonna spend his life in jail now. Was I the only one that thought that?
Well, I'd definitely say that Trick or Treat had it kind of had like the more upbeat ending, because it was like, oh, he got the girl of his dreams. He, banished Sammy Kerr back to hell where he belongs. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Because how the police were after him at one point, because they're like, oh, you did all this. But yeah, I didn't think of that. So I'm like, I hope Eddie didn't get arrested. He didn't deserve to.
That's like the whole thing I was thinking at the end. I'm like, oh my God, he finally has the girl, and he's not even gonna be able to enjoy it because he's going to jail afterwards. All the chaos he did in the city, all the destruction, he's going to jail now.
I hope that didn't happen though.
I know, I'm hoping so too. I'm hoping that the cops never found him, or there wasn't enough evidence to point to him. But that's what I was thinking. My husband's like, really? That's what you thought of with the whole movie? Yeah, I'm like, he can't even enjoy his girl now. He's going to jail.
But yeah, Hakko Lantern had, I can even say Hakko Lantern probably had the more, definitely not the upbeat ending, but definitely one where you're like, oh shit, it's not over.
Yeah, exactly. So the next movie that I'm going to recommend is, so if anybody knows me, you know that one of my favorite movies, at least in my top 3, is The Dissent. When you look at scary movie recommendations, The Dissent is always recommended. So I decided to go with As Above, So Below. It's on Netflix right now, so if you have Netflix, you can definitely go and watch this. But if you're a fan of The Descent like I am, and you're also a fan of National Treasure and Da Vinci Code, this movie is a mixture of all 3 movies. It's so good. So basically, it's a mockumentary about this girl named Scarlett, and she started this journey where she's trying to find the Philosopher's Stone that was made by Nicholas Flamel. And if you guys are Harry Potter fans, like I am, I learned something new. Nicholas Flamel is not just a Harry Potter character, but he was also a historical figure. So people believe that he created the Philosopher's Stone. And in Harry Potter, Nicholas Flamel was a wizard who created the Sorcerer's Stone. And apparently when I was doing some research, J.K. Rowling put him in there, she used the Nicholas Flamel in history to be a character in Harry Potter. I believe that in the British version of Harry Potter isn't the Sorcerer's Stone, it's the Philosopher's Stone because of Nicholas Flamel. So I learned something new, that Nicholas Flamel was a real person. He could have been a wizard in real life. We don't know. But basically, the Philosopher's Stone is supposed to grant eternal life. Scarlett was on this hunt. She's an archaeologist, and she's trying to find this Philosopher's Stone. Well, evidence is pointing that the Philosopher's Stone is actually in Paris, France, in the catacombs. So she's like, I gotta find this Philosopher's Stone. Her and her dad have been trying to hunt this Philosopher's Stone his entire career, but her dad died, so now she's taken on her dad's
legacy.
Yes, her dad's legacy. That's it. She's taken on her dad's legacy. She hires this crew who know the catacombs. They're gonna go way off in the catacombs, not where people go for tourist attractions or anything. They're going into the catacombs where things are blocked off. Well, as they get down into the catacombs, they accidentally enter into the 7 layers of hell, and shit gets real from there. This movie is definitely more of a thinking movie than The Descent was. It doesn't have as much scares as The Descent. The Descent, you got jump scare here, jump scare there, jump scare there. This movie
is The Descent is really gory.
Yes, and it's very gory. This one isn't as gory. I mean, there's still some jump scares, but it's not as much. This one also has a crazy ending that you're like, oh, was not expecting that. So yeah, I would highly recommend this one. And you haven't seen this one yet, right?
It's a movie that I've seen the poster of, and I've heard people talking really good about it. I think another friend of mine on here on YouTube was talking about this movie once. Yeah, now that I hear you describe it more, it definitely sounds like something up my alley, because I know it's a found footage movie, right?
Yeah, it's like a mockumentary type thing.
Yeah.
So it has like the Paranormal Activity vibes.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people don't really like those mockumentary found footage movies, but I do enjoy those movies. So the catacombs are actually like a real thing in France, I believe.
Yeah,
And I've
they're
seen
very
I've seen like documentaries where like they're talking like they go in and like it just looks so creepy in there, and it makes me think like, wow, like imagine like if you got lost in there and it was like pitch black.
Yes, and these people go to where, like, you know, they, like you said, they have tours down there. So there's like, you know, the actual route that people go in every day, but they go into like different parts of the city and they like get into the catacombs that like the public is not allowed to access. So they get like really deep into the catacombs. It's scary. It's really cool though, but I would love to visit the catacombs someday. That would be pretty cool.
Don't get lost.
I'll try not to, but I probably will, you know, venture away from the group. And I want to do that.
I wouldn't want to do that. I'm a real big scaredy cat. It's ironic because my name's Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've already added As Above, So Below onto my watch list on Netflix because of your recommendation.
Yeah, it's good. I definitely recommend it. So what other movie do you have for us?
Well, unfortunately, we're getting to the last two of the list.
I know.
But now we're getting into the more modern stuff. And my fourth recommendation is what I would consider the perfect definition of a hidden gem, especially in the horror realm, featuring a very underrated scream queen, and that is the movie May from 2002. Now, May is about the title character of May, who had a very lonely childhood, and the only friend that she really had was this porcelain doll named Susie that her mother gave her for her birthday. And even into adulthood, she still talks to the doll like it's a real person. And she says, like, you know, like, you'll always be my best friend. You've always been there for me, you know. And May also has a job at a veterinary clinic, and she's always taking care of like injured and like worst case scenarios, mangled, dismembered animals from like accidents. So I think because of that, she develops this really weird obsession with body parts. And if you can't tell by now, this is a body horror movie if you're into that. And so yeah, May is a very weird character, but that's like her thing. And she's also kind of like in a weird way like an adorable character just because she's so awkward and like soft spoken and at times very like innocent, you know. And so the story picks up when she develops a crush on this guy named Adam. And according to her, as she tells the doll Susie, he's got the perfect hands. And so they meet kind of a funny way, but I won't spoil it for people who want to watch the movie. And they develop like they start off like a relationship, but eventually May gets a little too weird with Adam, and she kind of like scares him off. And she was like, "Oh, but I thought you liked weird." And he says, "No, not that kind of weird." Again, won't spoil it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like from there, May sets off on this mission of sorts to create the perfect friend with the perfect part. Again, if you can't tell by now, this is a body horror movie, and it also features a young Anna Faris. And this was like scary movie Anna Faris for, you know, she became really famous and before she became blonde. And as I mentioned, this movie features who I think is a very underrated scream queen, and that is Angela Bettis, who has done quite a few horror movies, but there are like a lot of real indie ones like that people probably haven't seen. She's been in, I think it's a remake of the Toolbox Murders. May, of course, we're talking about it, and the 2002 TV remake of Carrie, which personally I think is way better than the 2013 theatrical remake. She's a really amazing actress, I think, and she's also from Austin, Texas. Of course, I would love to meet her one day if she ever comes to this area, which I'm surprised she hasn't yet. In fact, she just came out with a new movie, a new horror movie recently called, I think it's called like 20 or 12-hour shift, something like that, came out in a new horror movie. So if anybody's interested in watching some movies with her, I highly recommend you watch her movies. But for Halloween, May is one I just recommend the shit out of because it's such a good movie and it deserves more love.
Yeah, so this is the one movie I haven't seen that you recommended. Fun fact, I actually used to work at an animal shelter. So I worked there for like several years, and I dealt with a lot of injured animals, like mangled and, you know, injuries with animals. And that actually got me interested in doing nursing. So now I'm starting a nursing program just because injuries kind of fascinate me. And I want to work in my emergency room or trauma or something like that, because that stuff doesn't necessarily scare me. It fascinates me on how I can fix it. So that's why I've actually went into the nursing route. But now I kind of sound like a psycho because I really related to the May
As long
character.
as you don't kill anybody.
I don't plan. I want to fix people. That's why I'm going into nursing. To be a nurse someday. Think about it. Just kidding. So like I totally kind of now relate to her, and now I really need to see this movie. But another fun fact: when I was growing up, I didn't have cable or anything like that. So how I got my source of entertainment is I went to the library or Family Video to rent horror movies. Family Video, I don't think that's a nationwide chain. Like you guys don't have Family Video, right? Or you never heard of Family Video?
No, I've never heard of it, or even I don't even think we had one. We had like Blockbuster, like Hollywood Video, if anything.
I'm from a very small town in Indiana, and so if anybody from my hometown, you know me, are watching this, I'm pretty sure I haven't been home in a while, but I'm pretty sure we still have the Family Video, and connected to it is a pizza parlor, and I think you can get a deal on your pizza and your movie, so it's kind of like an all-in-one. And then there's also a Chinese food takeout place that's connected as well, but I don't think it discounts with that. I know, it's the best Chinese food I've ever had. Like, I've lived in different states and different cities, and I'm telling you, I'm so spoiled by my hometown Chinese food place that no other Chinese food place is as good. So shout out to Wok and Roll. You guys know the Wok and Roll.
Oh my god, I love that name.
Oh,
That is so cute.
Yes,
I had Chinese for lunch.
yes, so good. I love their food. Yeah, we still had one of those, but I remember seeing May, like the cover of May in the horror section, but it didn't look like a horror movie to me, like the cover didn't. So I never ever picked it up, and now I'm kind of sad I didn't, because you're saying it's full like body horror and everything. But it's the one movie I never picked up, but I was always intrigued. But for some reason, I've never seen it.
Yeah, I think the same thing happened to me, where like I saw the cover, and to me she kind of looked like one of those saint candles like on the cover. I think it's just because of like the background. But then like in recent years, when I finally saw the movie as an adult, I was like, oh, I just realized that there's actually like scissors behind her. But that's just how it looked to me. It didn't really look like a horror movie. So yeah, I think I was in that same situation too. And then now I watch it, I'm like, I love this movie. How come I never watched this before?
Yeah, I'm really gonna have to watch it, especially you said that there's like an animal connection, and then she talks to dolls. I don't talk to dolls, guys, so I feel okay. Thanks.
I talk to my Pennywise dolls now.
Do you speak back to you?
Sometime.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. So another funny thing, I don't know if my mom will remember this, but like one of my like first like scary movies I used to watch, the thing that got me into horror was actually Tales of the Crypt. I don't know, have you ever watched Tales of the Crypt?
I've heard of it, and I've seen it so everywhere, but I never like watched like any of episodes of the movies really.
Yeah, so again, I didn't have cable, so that was always on like, ours is called WGN. That's like a close to Chicago channel. I don't know what it's called like down here or anything, but ours is like the WGN, and they always played Tales of the Crypt. It was like Tales of the Crypt and Twilight Zone, the Addams Family, the Munsters. That was my shit, and that's what got me into horror. It's like I loved watching those. But my first like scary movie I got into was like Chucky, and I remember I think I creeped my mom out. I remember her telling me this story, but I don't know if she remembers telling me this story. But I remember telling her that I want a Chucky doll, like, and I was like 5 or 6, and I'm like, Mom, I want a doll just like Chucky. After watching the Chucky movie, because I was deranged like that. I was a creepy little kid. But
shit, I wanted the Tiffany doll after I saw Bride of Chucky, and I still do.
Yeah, she was badass. I used to have those the Living Dead dolls. Did you ever have those?
It's over here. I have an Alex Clockwork Orange one, and then over there I have a Pennywise one.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yes, I had one of those, and I kept it in my room. It was like the one like doll like I had to display all the time was like my little Living Dead doll. She was so cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, creepy. I was a creepy child. That's okay.
So was I. I'm still creepy.
If you're watching horror movies, you were probably some kind of creepy child at some point. And that's
exactly.
And that's okay. Okay, so the next 2 movies that I'm going to recommend take place during Halloween. And the one that I'm going to recommend right now is Haunt, and it's on Shudder. Have you guys heard of Shudder? Because I just found out what Shudder was because of Miss Cat here. She told me that if I like horror, I need to get Shudder, and it's basically a Netflix but with all horror movies. And what could be better than that? I've only had it for like 2 days now, and I'm obsessed. You guys want some reviews from Shudder, and you want me to do Shudder Saturdays, where I review a new movie from Shudder every Saturday, then please please subscribe to my channel, like this video, because you know what's really ticking me off, you guys, is I'm at 48 subscribers. 48. I'm only 2 away from 50. So can you guys please be nice to me and just subscribe? Just 2 more people get me.
Please support Tabitha, people. I love, like, she just started out on YouTube and I am already in love with you. You always make me laugh in your videos. You're so laid back and so genuine, which is so rare to find in anybody nowadays. And I mean, you do it you've been doing it for years. I've supported your channel ever since. I've supported your channel ever since I think you started following me on Instagram, and I was like, oh, she has a YouTube channel too. Well, I'm starting to be on YouTube videos myself, so I'll give her a subscription. And then ever since then, I mean, you're the reason why I finally sat my ass down and watched The Cleaning Lady, and I love that movie.
Nice. That's so great. That's so great. Yeah, Kat was one of my first followers, so I really appreciate Kat, and I would appreciate any new subscriber that can help me start this channel. I have so many great ideas, but if you can even just get me to 50, I'd highly appreciate it. Really.
And if you need any recommendations for Shudder, I have a whole list as well.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna probably hit you up on that, because there are so many I'm already looking at that I'm like, I think I need to do reviews, because there's just endless amounts, especially if you guys are into indie kind of horror, which I know Kat is. She knows all the cool movies that no one's ever heard of, and then she's got these crazy facts about these movies you've never heard of on top of it. That's why I love her stuff. You need to check out her Instagram too, because she's always got cool stuff on there as well. Shudder is the thing for you, so definitely check that out. And we are not sponsored by Shudder, but Shudder, if you ever hear about us, if you ever watch this video, we totally would love to be sponsored by. We could do collab Shudder reviews, just hit us up, Shudder. We got your back. Yeah. But anyways, the first movie I watched from Shudder was Haunt, and it's about these college kids that want to go to a fun little haunted house, and they think they're going to this fun little haunted house, but it's not a fun little haunted house. It turns out to be a creepy thing that they don't want to experience. And I'm going to preface on why this is so scary to me. So here's a little story time. When I was in high school, my boyfriend in high school ended up being gay. He came out of the closet. That's why we broke up, is because he was gay. No hard feelings. Me and him are still best friends. He's my best friend. So shout out to Ryan. I love you. I'm sure you remember this story because I tell it all the time. But me and Ryan, the one reason why me and him were always so close is because we both love horror movies. What we did on the weekends is we went to the family video and rented some horror movies, and Halloween was our Christmas. We loved Halloween. So one time we went to a haunted house, and this is when we were dating, and we were a very innocent couple. Like I said, he was gay, so we were very innocent. We didn't do anything. Nada. All we enjoyed just watching movies together, hanging out, gossiping, that's what we like to do. So we go to this little haunted house that turned out to be a fun house full of clowns. And we go through this thing called the claustrophobia wall. If you guys have not heard about a claustrophobia wall, basically what it is these 2 big foam mats that are pushed together like this. And it's this long hallway just of mats, foam mats. And to get through this hallway, you have to push your way through these foam mats until you get to the end of the hallway. So I think I'm a badass, and I'm like, it's okay, Brian, I got you. I'll go first through this claustrophobia wall. So I'm going through this claustrophobia wall, right? And I get stuck in the middle, and all of a sudden I feel somebody grab my waist. Now, like I said before, me and Ryan did not do any. So the fact that somebody was grabbing my waist, I was like, what's going on? I remember I was like, Ryan, why are you touching my waist? Hey, Ryan, what are you doing? And as I said that, the person then began to rub down my thigh. And again, me being shocked because I was an innocent young girl that didn't do anything with my boyfriend, I was like, what are you doing? You're being a little weird. Why are you rubbing on my thigh? And then I was like, Ryan, knock it off. You're being weird. After that, somebody laughs in a very high-pitched voice saying, who's Ryan? And then this clown laugh starts giggling. Once I heard that, I freaked the out, okay? So I am trying to run away from this clown that I know has me by the waist. And I am running as fast as I can. And I'm not going anywhere. When I was in high school, I was 90 pounds and I was 4'11". So, I mean, this guy's just holding me by the waist and I'm not going anywhere. And he's just sitting there laughing as I'm trying to struggle out of this claustrophobia wall. He finally lets me go and I am running as fast as I can to get through this wall. As I get out, I turn around and this big ass clown, this tall clown, comes out of this claustrophobia wall and just starts laughing. I was like, So basically, yeah, I got felt up by a clown in a haunted house, and it wasn't fun, and it terrified me. So anything that has to do with freaking haunted houses scare the crap out of me. That's why Haunt scared the crap out of me. It's like if you guys saw The Houses October Built, it was showing that people who work at haunted houses can be really big creeps, and that just intensified my fear of haunted houses. But yeah, I hope you guys.
I've never been to a haunted, like an actual haunted house before,
Really?
and now I'm kind of scared too.
Yeah, I mean, I still go. I mean, it's a fun story to tell, but during that time, I was like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing in here. I'm also really bad in haunted houses because it drives my friend Ryan insane because he's the only one of my friends that'll actually do haunted houses with me. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I usually am going first, and I'm peeking around the corner, and I'm like, hey, if you're gonna jump out at me, you better do it now because I'm expecting it. Or like, I'm like, hey, I know you're in that little corner, so you might as well come out now. Like, don't try to scare me. That's the kind of person I am in haunted houses, and it's just probably not fun. But they still end up getting me, and then I scream my head off, and then I want to get out. But they're fun. If you like horror, you need to go to an actual haunted house.
Maybe one day if I'm brave enough to. Like I said, I'm a big scaredy cat deep down.
Oh man, they're loads of fun. They're loads of fun. Yeah, but that's why this movie really scared me. But again, it's a fun movie too throughout. Like you go through this haunted house, they think that's all fun and games, and then slowly you realize,
and it's like, surprise, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, I'm actually gonna kill you. So yeah, let's do this. Yeah, so that's my next recommendation. What about you? What other recommendation do you have for us?
Well, I am on the last movie of the list. No. But actually, my last recommendation is a pretty popular, well-known horror movie that, you know, a lot of people have probably seen at some point in their lives or have heard of it or even seen like the iconic poster. And I can't remember if it does take place around Halloween. I think there's like a brief scene where like they're walking and you just see like decorations up. But it's the atmosphere of this movie that makes me enjoy watching it during this time of the year. And that is the Blair Witch Project from 1999. Now, as I said, this is a pretty popular, well-known horror movie, but for anybody who hasn't heard of it or even seen it, it is about 3 student filmmakers who go into the woods in search of a local legend called the Blair Witch. And in true horror movie fashion, shit goes down, they end up getting lost, and then that's when the scary stuff happens. Now, I have always said that in my life that it's very rare when a horror movie scares. So there's only 3 horror movies that genuinely creep me out, and that is The Exorcist, The Strangers, and the Blair Witch Project. And much like As Above, So Below, it is also shot in like that mockumentary style. And because of that, back when it came out in 1999, they promoted it as if like it had actually happened. Like these kids actually got lost in the woods and were supposedly killed by the Blair Witch, which I think is brilliant because I was definitely one of those people for the longest time that was like, oh, I thought like they had died. Like how, like, are they alive still? But I mean, I don't really see it as being gullible. I just see it as, you know, brilliant, smart promotion, film promotion. And yeah, like, as I said, like, can't remember if this actually takes place around Halloween, but it's the feel of the movie that makes me love watching it like around this time. Right now, I mean, we're in Texas. Right now, it's like 90 degrees during the fall because our weather never wants to stay consistent. But yeah, like this movie definitely puts me in that mood because it's very cold, damp, dark. It's a fun movie to watch like in the dark as well because like I said, like the feeling of it and the realness of it will put you in that mood and does creep me out because it just feels so real. And I have like a fond memory of my older brother finding the VHS tape in a used bookstore, and then we went home, and I think our parents had to go somewhere after that, so it was just us home alone. And then he was like, hey, let's watch the Blair Witch. So we're just sitting there in the room watching it, and it's like during the scenes where like at night and like they have the flashlights, they're like so scary. And like I just remember being in like a big chair and just like on edge, like, oh, this is so creepy.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the fun of it is like, because I was definitely one of those people too when it first came out. I was like, oh my god, they actually found footage of people who got ill, like, and they're gonna use this in a movie. Like, that's freaking crazy. I think everyone in the 90s kind of thought that, but that's why this movie's so freaking scary. Have you seen The Fourth Kind? Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, it's like the alien abduction movie, and it's like shot in that same style.
Yes.
Oh my god, that movie creeped me out when I first watched it.
Yes, like you were saying about like Gullible. So when that movie, because that's more of like it's a kind of like a mockumentary. Yeah, it's like a mockumentary kind of thing. And I thought that it was about like real people. Like I thought that they actually found like footage that they were using. I thought that there was maybe some actors, but I thought that they were like inserting like real clips that they found in this movie. So I remember watching this in college. I don't know if any of my old college friends are watching, like shout out to Dylan, Bob, Nero, Callie. If you guys remember us watching this, it scared me, and you guys let me believe that this was all real. And so for like a year, I literally was so into aliens. Like I ended up even taking this course in college that was called Searching for Life in the Universe, because I was so like into aliens at that point, because I'm like, they gotta be real. Like they found this footage of these people like getting abducted by aliens. How could this not be real? And then eventually my friends showed me the IMDb page of the actors that were, you know, in the found footage. And then I realized that they were Canadian actors. And I was like, guys, why'd you have to ruin that for me? Like that movie was so fun to watch because I thought it was real. So my friends lived, I think, on the 11th floor in the dormitory. I lived on like the 8th floor. And I remember even just taking the elevator back down to my room after watching it with them. I was literally convinced that I was going to be abducted by aliens because I knew the truth. I watched that movie. I knew the truth. So I was going to be next to be abducted. And that was the scariest elevator ride of my life, you guys. But the fun part about that movie was I thought that it was real footage. And that's exactly how the movie was too. Craziness.
Yeah, it's fun to be scared, even if it didn't really happen. I mean, even like Paranormal Activity, like the first 3 movies creeped me out at some point. But again, just because it feels so real, and you almost start believing like, yeah, this really did happen, which makes it scarier. Yeah, like I've always been a believer in the paranormal. I mean, ever since I was like a kid, you know, I've always believed in like people see UFOs and like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, ghosts and everything. And again, I was a creepy child. But yeah, like I've always been a firm believer in that. Like even though those movies were obviously fake, they still creep me out because in real life, there are real life cases like that. And I mean, even with a movie like The Exorcist, there are real life cases of people who claim to have been possessed and need to be exorcised.
I mean, there are actual like people within like the Catholic Church that perform exorcisms. Like it happens. I have a book that I want to read that's by like a priest who literally that was his like job, is he just performed exorcisms. I need to get to that. But like the fact that that can actually happen is just so wild in my opinion. Those are the movies that really scare me, are the ones that have to do with actual people and things that could actually happen.
Yeah.
It kills me every time. Yeah. So my last recommendation, we're on my last one. The one that is my go-to Halloween movie, other than the actual Halloween series, is The Terrifier. And I know that there's a lot of mixed reviews on this movie. I know you either love it or you hate it. Yeah, who doesn't like The Terrifier? I love it.
I thought it was overrated. I'm sorry, people. I thought it was overrated. Go ahead, fight me.
Yeah, I might have to, because Terrifier was so great in my opinion. Like, this movie legitimately scared me. Like Kat was saying, there's not many movies that actually scare me. Like, it takes a lot to scare me. But The Terrifier, the fact that he's a clown, which clowns always get me, anything that has to do with a guy in some kind of like mask or scary like makeup gets me. If they have creepy facial expressions, gets me. If there's jump scares, yeah, I'm all about that. And The Terrifier had this. Like, I don't know, do you know who the actor of Art the Clown is? Because he's a phenomenal actor. Like,
yes,
you do.
He goes by the name of David Howard Thornton.
Okay, see, she knows everything. See, she's the one with all the facts. Like,
on the encyclopedia.
Exactly, she's my horror encyclopedia. Like, when I need a fact, I'm like, hey, do you know? Because I know.
Like,
yeah, right? But Art the Clown, I believe, is the scariest horror movie character that exists. I even think he's scarier than It, which she's gonna kill me for saying that. But I think he is more terrifying than It. His facial expressions, the fact that it's just like silent. He just
like I can admit that like Art the Clown, like as a character, is scary because like in those scenes where like not only because of the way he looked, but like in those scenes where he's just like standing so still and his eyes are wide, and it's like you know a jump scare is gonna happen, but still you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? And that hacksaw scene definitely made Pennywise look like a bitch. But other than that, like story wise, it didn't terribly impress me. I'm sorry, cool. I know a lot of people love Terrifier. They love Art. Terrifier 2's coming out. We're excited about that, but sorry, just didn't like it.
You know the movie I did not like was All Hallows Eve, the one that also has like Art the Clown.
Yeah, I didn't like. I'm confused by that. Is like that's supposed to be like is Terrifier like a sequel or like a spin-off or something? something?
I think it might be a spinoff because All Hallows Eve was like mini stories. Like it was almost like
it was like an anthology.
Yeah, but like Art the Clown was like one of the main like characters.
Oh, so it's like Trick or Treat, like the 2007 one, where like it's different stories, but Sam is like the one who connects them all.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but honestly, I couldn't get into All Hallows Eve. It was all right, but I mean, Terrifier was just like way up here, and All Hallows Eve was like down here. So, but I mean, I guess if you want to see more of Art the Clown, you can check out All Hallows Eve, but it wasn't anything that good in my opinion. But if you haven't heard of the Terrifier, basically what the premise is you got these two drunk ratchet girls who just came back from a club and they're falling all over.
We all know a girl like that.
Yeah, they're that girl, and they need to eat some like pizza to be able to drive home, and they meet Art the Clown, and yeah, it gets scary from there. I think that's all you really need to know. But yeah,
without spoiling anything.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you just want to watch it for Art the Clown. You just want to watch for his like facial expressions. They get you every time. But guys, that's all I have for you today. If you liked our collaboration and you want to see more, then subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and like Kat on Instagram. Her Instagram will be in the links below. Like, subscribe, and what else am I missing? Comment. Comment if you like this. Let us know, and we'll see you again next
We're so sorry about the mess up at the beginning. It happens, but honestly, I think like in this run, we talked about more stuff that we left off in the first one.
I think you guys got a better version this time. Yeah. This was the last time a run through, and this is the final. So I think we're good. Yeah. If you want to see more collabs, or if you'd like to collab with me someday, then my email address will be in the link below. Hit me up. I'm more than willing to do that. And yeah, that's all we got.
Please support Tabitha, people. So sweet and funny, and I love her. And we're actually going to be collabing again very soon, but we will be better prepared this time.
Yes, I'll know how to hit the record button next time.
Yeah, and we also may be having something special planned for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. So you better subscribe if you want to see some more of us. Got that? All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.